The New York Islanders GM search continues. Today we'll discuss the key things the Islanders need to look for when hiring their next general manager. We've got all that and more on today's Locked On Islanders podcast.
You're Locked On Islanders, your daily podcast on the New York Islanders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to the Monday edition of the Locked On Islanders podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I want to thank everyone who makes Locked On Islanders your first listen every day. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts so you get new episodes as soon as they drop. This episode is brought to you by the Amazon Fire TV Stick 4K. Turn any TV into your Xbox, no console needed. Head to Amazon.com/FireTVLockedOn to learn more. I'm Gil Martin. I've been covering the New York Islanders for almost 2 decades, and I wrote the book Ice Wars on the history of the Islanders' rivalry with the Rangers from 1972 to the modern era. So glad you could join us today and talk a little Islanders hockey. We've got a lot to discuss. We're going to talk about what the Islanders should be looking for in their new GM as the search continues, and we'll discuss both the most disappointing players this year and players that were exceeding expectations this year. We're going to break all of that down and more on today's show. We're going to start with the GM search. And obviously, this is the key to the entire direction that the team is going to take over the next few years. And while I think it was definitely the right move to move on from Lou Lamoriello, and every dayers, you know, I've been talking about this for the better part of a year, maybe more, what this team should be looking for in a new GM. First of all, and this is no offense to anybody out there who is older, but they've got to be younger than Lou, okay? You got to have somebody who knows how to work and be successful under the salary cap. And unfortunately, Lou Lamoriello never really managed the cap very well. You want somebody also who is not going to put into place rules that are viewed by many as antiquated. I'm talking about the no facial hair, no long hair. I get it. You can get away with that if you're winning consistently because there are plenty of good players out there who will knowingly make the sacrifice. And I could put sacrifice in air quotes, but you know, if you got a chance consistently to win a Stanley Cup, not having a mustache, at least during the season, isn't going to bother people all that much. But if you're just another struggling team, and again, the Islanders have the 10th worst record in the league this year. If you're just another struggling team and it's a choice, you know, the decision is close and it's one team that doesn't allow facial hair and another team that does, and you've got a long hair or a mustache or a beard, why not, you know, choose the team that'll let you keep it? So I think while it's a minor factor, I want a new general manager who is not going to put extra restrictions on the team in that respect. And to sort of even tie it in a little bit more, you want the new general manager to be able to at least communicate and understand modern NHL players, younger modern NHL players. You want the general manager to be somebody who judges talent and drafts well. Why? We know the New York Islanders are in a little bit of a cap crush, but more importantly than that, because the cap keeps going up and the crush is less, and a smart GM, when he or she comes in, will be able to make some moves that free up even more cap space. Okay. But the big thing is that the Islanders need somebody who will draft, because in the history of this franchise, and realistically, I'm only going back to the salary cap era, no big ticket elite free agent has ever signed with the New York Islanders. And ideally, you want a GM who's going to reverse that trend. Okay. And I think it's doable, and one big move can do it. I'll make a football analogy. When the NFL first implemented free agency in 1993, a lot of people said, hey, the Green Bay Packers, they're dead in the water. No one is going to want to sign in a small city where there's a very small African-American population and a team that's been losing all the time and has terrible weather. No one's going to sign there. Reggie White was the most valued, highest ranked free agent of that first free agent class. And what did he do? He signed with the Packers. Changed the perception of the organization like that. Snap of my fingers. All of a sudden, Green Bay became a destination. They started winning. And the perception of the team changed. So I want a GM who can sign that one big ticket free agent, number one. Mitch Marner, maybe Nikolai Ehlers, if that is available. I don't even need a specific name. I need someone who is willing and able to get a big signing, not so much even for the signing itself, but to change the perception of the Islanders, because people talk around this league. Players know each other. They're friends with each other, dating back to, juniors and all of that. They talk to each other. And the reputation the Islanders have is they don't sign free agents. Got to change that perception. But until that perception changes, and it may not be doable in just one off season, you need somebody who drafts well. And I don't think Lou Lamoriello's strength was drafting. I think if he had a strength, it was the trade and sign. Bo Horvat, acquired in a trade, signed. Alexander Romanov, acquired in a trade, signed an extension. Kyle Palmieri, J.G. Pajot. That's the way Lou Lamoriello was able to build this team. I don't want to replicate that. You overpay. You end up giving up, and Lou himself said this, too much money, too much term, and those dreaded no-trade clauses that kept the Islanders in the muddy middle. So you want a player who can draft and develop, and a GM rather, who can draft and develop and who's going to upgrade the scouting system, upgrade the coaches and facilities and the way things are done in Bridgeport to make Bridgeport at least a place where prospects thrive. Again, they don't have to win the AHL championship, okay? But they can't be record-setting bad, and they have to be a place where prospects, highly regarded prospects, start there and come out as either what you expected them to be or better. Right now, it feels like Bridgeport is a black hole where prospects, if they go there, get sucked in and they never come out as prospects. They come out as career AHLers or overage players or, fringe NHLers. I want to see draft and develop, and I want to see that upgraded and made, because the Islanders, despite playing in New York, they are not considered a big market team. They've never spent like a big market team, and they've never been viewed as a big market team. Same thing with the Devils. Newark, right outside of New York City, but it's not considered a big market. So, okay, I get it, but It makes drafting and developing important. And here's another thing in the cap era, why draft and develop is vital. Think about this. Think about this. When you draft someone and you sign them to that entry-level contract, you got 3 years where they are cost controlled, and then you've got, restricted free agent, then restricted free agent with arbitration rights. You've got 5 or 6 years before the player starts to get leverage. Now, ideally, a year or two of that is spent in Bridgeport. So, okay. But in a cap world, you need value. And when you need value, you got to have those guys on their entry-level contracts, or guys who are not arbitration eligible yet and aren't free agent eligible yet, unrestricted free agent eligible yet. When you have enough young talent still on their entry-level deals or on RFA deals, that keeps value high and cost down. And the Islanders have not been particularly good at that. The only 2 players that Lou really developed and drafted, Simon Holmstrom and Noah Dobson. Holmstrom is just starting to get to where he needs to be, and Dobson has been up and down. So that's where it's at. You need 3, 4, 5 more guys like that in your pipeline to keep costs down, and that allows you to have the cap space to bring in a big ticket free agent and just make things better. You also need a GM who's going to be on the same page as the president, if it's 2 different people, and the coach. You need an organization that's on the same page, that has the same general direction. That's not to say there can't be disagreements at times. The GM could say, you know what, I think this player is great. And the coach could say, I'm a little lukewarm on this guy. He's inconsistent, or he doesn't skate fast enough, or whatever the disagreement is. But if the overall disagreement is how you want to build the team, that creates friction. That creates a situation like what the Islanders had last year. And that is where the coach was not getting the type of players he wanted from the general manager. So got to have that. And I don't want there to be a situation like there was under Lou Lamoriello, where it just seemed like everything went back to Lou and there was no heir apparent. There was no development of a staff. It was a small staff. Get your organization's ducks in a row. Let there be enough scouts, enough assistants, enough people who are learning and growing into the position so that you have succession and a smooth path forward. These are all qualities I want from the next GM. A little experience, I think, is a good thing. I want some experience, but I really want to see change come to this organization. We have got a lot more to get to on today's show. Which Islanders were the most disappointing this season? Who had a good season? We're going to talk about that and the impact that these players had. And for our Islanders' birthday of the day, a checking forward was with the Islanders twice, but mostly in the late 1990s. Let's see if you can guess who that is. All that and more coming up on today's Locked On Islanders podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Well, between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you stop just managing your money and start building wealth. I started using Monarch and I realized just how much I was spending on food delivery. Now I budget smarter and save more. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you could use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, and even plan long-term goals. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNHL, one word, for half off your first year. So this season, obviously, as a whole, did not go the way the New York Islanders had hoped or wanted. But who were some of the players who were the most disappointing on this team? I'm going to list 4 guys who disappointed. I think there are more, unfortunately. And, you know, when you don't make the playoffs and you have the 10th worst record in the league, the list of disappointing players is maybe higher than the list of guys who were pleasant surprises. But I'm going to pick 4. First and foremost, and I put a little asterisk next to this one, but Anthony Duclair has to be on this list. And I like Anthony Duclair. We saw Anthony Duclair healthy this year for a grand total of 5 games. Count them, 5. And after that, he was injured. He came back too quickly, probably trying to help the team, and never really regained his speed, his burst. A groin injury for a guy who relies on speed is a very difficult thing to overcome. And then at the end of the season, you had this big falling out between Patrick Roy and Anthony Duclair. In 44 games, Duclair had 7 goals and 11 points, and he was a minus 15 plus minus. And it just didn't seem, there were games where you just almost forgot he was on the ice. And that is not what you want from your big free agent signing. Now, you give, you know, the pace was about 13 goals and, 25 points over the course of a season. That's not going to get it done if he played a full 82. So the asterisk is for the injury. Let's see what he can do next year when he's healthy and back and ready. But no doubt that Anthony Duclair was on this list. Next on this list, and I think maybe this guy is at or near the bottom, but Kyle McLean, kind of disappointed, did not play up to the level that he showed the year before. And I know he's on the 4th line and offense is not what you expect of him. But for a guy who played 81 games, 4 goals, 11 points, and a minus 15 plus minus, that is not going to get the job done. And he wasn't as physical as he was a year ago. He only had 108 hits in 81 games. You want your 4th line guy to do, if he's not going to give you a lot of offense, and again, on the 4th line, offense is not usually the primary contribution, but I just didn't see a lot of physicality. I didn't see as much back checking and defense that I used to see. He did improve in the faceoff circle, and he did come on a bit better later in the season. But overall, this was a failure to take a step forward for Kyle McLean, and in that respect, disappointing. Next on the list of disappointing players, Pierre Gabriel. And yeah, he finished strong. He had maybe a 10 or 12 game streak down the stretch of the season where he kind of picked things up. But you know what? How many times did Patrick Roy have to call him out? How many times did, he just not do the things that Roy wanted him to do? Go to the net, shoot the puck. Don't have to be the most physical guy in the world. He's not. He never will be. But back check, play defense. Do the little things. Go to those dirty areas, which he when Pierre Engvall goes to those dirty areas, his speed and his reach can be a weapon. When he stays on the perimeter, he is just a guy. He's just a body out there, and he needs to do more. For the season, 8 goals, 15 points in 62 games, and a -7. And keep in mind that -7 improved late in the year. It was worse, with about 25 games to go. So Engvall did not even make the roster out of training camp. I know part of that was due to cap constraints, but Lou Lamoriello took a gamble that Engvall would develop into a second line winger, and he never really consistently did. He is a potential buyout candidate this offseason, and he has to be on the list of disappointing players. But at the top of the list this year has to be Noah Dobson. Dobber played in 71 games, and after scoring 70 points a year ago, 10 goals, 29 assists, so 39 points in 71 games. Over 82 games, what is that, 44 points maybe? 43. That is just a big, 43% drop in production from a year ago. The plus minus -16. Only 57 hits in 71 games. The block shots down also from a year ago. 11 of his 29 assists came on the power play. He is still not a great power play quarterback, but the big issue with Noah Dobson was his failure to play defense. Not picking up his man, not knowing where to go, turning the puck over when trying to pass it or skate it out of the zone, being stuck in no man's land, going behind the net with his defense partner, leaving players unattended in front. So many basic fundamental mistakes we saw from Noah Dobson. And a couple of years ago, he was better. In fact, he probably did his best work in his own zone when he was partnered with Zdeno Chara. And I think something that the new GM has to consider and figure out is finding the right defense partner who can work with Noah Dobson and cover up for some of his defensive deficiencies while helping to improve his awareness and his ability to just cut down on those defensive mistakes. So that is going to be a challenge. But to me, Noah Dobson had to top the list of the most disappointing players on the Islanders. We've got more to discuss. How about some of the pleasant surprises on this team? There were some, and we'll talk about their impact on the team. Plus, we'll have our Islanders birthday of the day. All that and more coming up on today's Locked On Islanders podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Wonderful Pistachios. Looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious? Crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help keep you feeling fuller longer. Personally, I love the no shells variety. It's the perfect grab and go snack for busy days, whether I'm snacking at my desk, on a road trip, or just need a quick protein boost. They're always my go-to. And if you love cracking open every shell for that satisfying crunch, then the in-shell options are a classic favorite. So get snacking and get cracking with the snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. That's wonderfulpistachios.com. So who were the pleasant surprises on this Islanders team? And there were some, and I'm going to start with an unexpected one. Mark Gatcomb only played 39 games, always on the fourth line. Maybe he had a couple of shifts on the third. Mark Gatcomb gave you 8 goals points in 39 games. That's about a 16, maybe 17 goal pace over 82 games. And while I don't necessarily expect him to be able to replicate a 19.5% shooting percentage, he was always hustling. He was one of the more physical guys, 149 hits in 39 games. Keep in mind, Mark Gatcomb was second on the Islanders in hits, and he played less than half the games this season. I think that speaks volumes, and I think he was a good addition. Finally, when Gatcomb joined the fourth line started to produce something, and we talked just earlier about how Kyle McLean got off to a slow start this season. He picked up his game in part because of the addition of Mark Gatcomb to that fourth line in the second half of the year. Also on the list, got to go with Isaiah George. Pressed into action when injuries hit the blue line. Played in 33 games, and probably for the first 22 of them or so, 23, he really surprised everybody. Scored his first career NHL goal, had 5 points, was a -3 plus-minus, which is not bad on a team that was struggling like the Islanders were. Yeah, he tailed off at the end, maybe hit the rookie wall, but a pleasant surprise, straightforward, competent, smart with the puck, and hopefully, again, remember, he was 20. Hopefully we are just scratching the surface of what Isaiah George can do for the New York Islanders. Next on the list, got to go with Anders Lee. I think most people, myself included, were writing off Anders Lee after he struggled the last couple of seasons. He worked during the offseason at his skating and at different aspects of his game, and he bounced back with a 29-goal season to lead the team. Second on the team with 54 points. He was a +3, which basically places him, in the top 10 of the Islanders in plus-minus. And I think, say what you want about him as a captain or whether the Islanders should keep him going forward. 1 year left on his deal at a $7 million cap hit. But Lee exceeded expectations by far this year. Tied for the team lead in power play goals with 5, 3 game-winning goals, and just got the job done at a rate that most people didn't think he could still do. And then finally on this list, Simon Holmstrom. Holmstrom got to the 20-goal plateau for the first time in his career. 45 points in 75 games, a +5 plus-minus, only 8 penalty minutes. Yeah, only 27 hits. I know he's not going to be a physical guy, but kills penalties, contributed on the power play at times, is fast, had a 20.8% shooting percentage, and just continues to grow into a better player for the New York Islanders. To me, Simon Holmstrom continuing to develop, exceeded expectations, and that was a good thing. He makes my final 4 as far as pleasant surprises go for the New York Islanders. Time now for our Islanders birthday of the day, and today is the 56th birthday of former Islanders forward Ted Donato. The Boston native went to Harvard for 4 years, drafted by the Boston Bruins, his hometown team, in the 5th round in 1987. Started his NHL career in 1991-92 with the Bruins, and then joined the Islanders early in the 98-99 season. Played 55 games for the Islanders, 7 goals, 18 points, 27 penalty minutes. Rejoined the Islanders for 1 game in 2001-2002. Briefly played for the Rangers, also played for the Stars, the Senators, the Ducks, the Kings, the Blues, and then closed out his career with the Bruins for a 5th round draft pick, 796 career NHL games, pretty good. 150 goals, 347 points, 396 penalty minutes. Add in 8 goals and 18 points in 58 playoff games, none of them with the Islanders. But Donato, always a solid checker and a very solid two-way forward. His best game as an Islander is easy to pinpoint. Ted Donato on December 5th, 1998, Islanders hosting the Devils at the Nassau Coliseum. Chris Terreri, the goalie for New Jersey. Wade Flaherty, the goalie for the Islanders. And Ted Donato, in the first period, sets up Brian Smolinski twice. Trevor Linden also assisting. Both goals came on the power play, and the Islanders held a 2-0 lead, but the Devils came back and took a 5-3 lead. Heading into the third period, they added to that lead, making it 6-3, and that's when Ted Donato went to work. He got a goal 2.5 minutes into the period, Trevor Linden and Mike Watt with the helpers, and then at 11:04, he pulled it to within a goal at 6-5. Eric Brewer, the only assist on Donato's goal. Unfortunately, it wasn't enough as Patrick Elias got an empty netter. Islanders lose this one 7-5, but for Ted Donato, 2 goals, 2 assists. That's a 4-point game. He had 2 goals on 2 shots, only played 16 minutes and 16 seconds, but that was one of the most productive games of his NHL career and certainly of his Islanders career. Ted Donato, a reliable two-way forward, is our Islanders' birthday of the day. Thank you for making Locked On Islanders your first listen today. For your second listen, check out the all-new Locked On NHL Game Night. Every game, every night until a Stanley Cup champion is crowned. Get local analysis on a national scale. You could find NHL Game Night on Locked On NHL, both on YouTube and wherever you listen to podcasts. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. If you have a question, a comment, maybe a topic you'd like us to discuss on a future episode, shoot us an email, lockedonislanders@gmail.com. If you leave your first name and where you're from, we're happy to mention you on the show when we discuss whatever's on your mind. You can follow the show on X at Locked On Isles. You can follow me, Gil Martin, on X at Ice Wars, NYR_VSNYI. We'll keep you up to date on all things Islanders all year long, including the ongoing search for a general manager. And hey, it's great to talk Islanders hockey with you, game time or anytime. Everydayers, we're back tomorrow. We will have the latest Islanders news, notes, and happenings, and very soon we'll begin our player-by-player review of everybody on the Islanders roster, what they did and what we can expect from them going forward. So make sure you join us for that. We're going to have in-depth analysis all off-season long. Until then, have a great day, everybody. Stay safe. And, of course, let's go Islanders.